40.
Say 39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.5.
3.
2.
1.
Hey, Rocky, you want to see me pull a show out of my hat? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty, fresh take on politics. And man, do we got a show for you tonight. Hey, this has been great. We reached out to Jamie Rittenauer yesterday, and she's got some issues about getting on the debate stage and being excluded. And you know, yours truly has been excluded an awfully lot on things. So we have a few things in common on that way. Just got off of Dion's Daily Dose show. He is also going to be on here, and he's basically going to be the co-host, and then we'll have our regular panel on here. But I'll tell you what, our guest tonight, she's quite impressive. I have not talked to her until tonight. Got to do some questions and interviews with her, and it was, I think you're going to be impressed. I mean, I don't want to build her up too much, but I don't know if I can build her up too much. So she's going to speak for herself coming on here. Hey, we thank you for tuning in tonight. You know, we've been doing this show. This is our 164th year, 3+ years we've been doing this show. And we just do it out of the goodness of our hearts. We don't have to answer to any sponsors or anybody else. We just do it because we love it. And, you know, sometimes the media doesn't get it right. Like in this case, you know, we need all of the governor candidates on the debate stage. I mean, it's not like it's crowded with 6. Why can't you have all those up there? So, hey, we're going to ask you to do something tonight. We're going to ask you to do something. We're going to give you a challenge here. So if you do have questions, you know, as we normally do, we put them in the live chat. If you have a question for Jamie or Dion, he lives up in northern Indiana near Gary, just a little bit south of there. Just ask away. We'll see if we can't get them in there. And I'm sure that Lucy and Brad will have some fun poking at the Republican Party and their exclusivity of some folks. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Dion. Let's see, Dion, where are you? Let's go. Let's put it this way. All right. Hey, Dion, how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me. I think we had a phenomenal show with you and Jamie. And I think, like you said, it's difficult to build her up too much because she is extremely impressive. I will definitely say she knows her scripture. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and hey, sometimes a little scripture can go a long way to get for wisdom. You know, that's what they say when Solomon prayed for, you know, they always gave the next person in line in the Jewish tradition, what do you want to pray for? And Solomon prayed for wisdom. So yep. Yeah, there you go. That was, so you pray for wisdom and that'll help. So Dion, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I was a over-the-road truck driver for about a decade. I was a trainer for Werner Enterprises, which was at the time the 4th largest trucking company in America. I've been to all 48 of the contiguous United States. I've been to Canada. I've been to Mexico. I've seen the best and the worst that this country has to offer. I've been to the poorest neighborhoods. I've been to the richest areas, and I've seen it all. After I had some back issues, I had multiple herniated discs. I couldn't drive truck anymore, so I had to find a new career. I became a correctional officer at Indiana State Prison, and I did that for 7 years. And during the time I was there, and it's one of the reasons why I have such pointed questions for Jamie, is because just the time that I was there, I witnessed a massive change in the entirety of the prison. The way that officers were required to treat the offenders and refer to them. Now you can't even call them inmates or offenders anymore. You have to call them like clients or something else. It's ridiculous. I could go on, and you know, there are many stories, but the short version is the health service is contracted, the food service is contracted, and they're not positive for a variety of reasons. But after doing that, I actually ran for United States Congress in 2020. I won my county. I did not win the primary, but I won my county. So I was approached to run for state rep. I ran for state rep in 2020 and 2022 and came closer than any Republican ever has to winning this district, which is District 9, state rep District 9, which includes Michigan City and Chesterton and a few of the smaller towns up here. Interestingly enough, at the time, the first time, it included both of the prisons, both Indiana State Prison and Westville, which is a lower security. So I have some little intimate knowledge about both of those situations. Yeah, there are a lot of very pointed questions that I'd like to ask, especially if she wins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, you know, she seems to be catching some lightning in a bottle. And I think that has happened because she's been excluded from a couple of debates coming up on the 26th and 27th. So Fox 59 on the 26th and the Wish TV on the 27th. And we're going to ask our viewers to get involved tonight. We're going to see what kind of reach the Mouthwash Talk Show and the Dion Daily Dose has tonight about getting some folks to write in and call in and go drive their car through their yards. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right. Don't do that.
We don't do that. But that's what we're going to have tonight. And it has been, seems to be in the GOP specifically. I know that this goes for both parties. They don't like competition. They just don't like it. And if they get it, they can just take it out. They love that when they don't have to be accountable for that type of thing. So we're going to have some questions for our people that are going to be in the debate. Maybe we'll ask them to do something. So I know a couple of them watch. I know that Curtis Hill, he's been on our show several times. Mike Braun's even been on our show. I don't think Doden. I don't think Suzanne Crouch has been on, and I don't think Chambers. I've met Chambers a couple times. So it's a very interesting race. We have 6 people running for this governor. They've all gotten their signatures. I would think that would be enough for them to get on the debate stage. But I'll tell you what we're going to do before we bring Jamie on. I'm going to bring Jamie on with just us 3 first, and then I'll bring on the panel because I know they're going to be wanting to ask some questions. And plus, I don't see Lucy backstage yet, and I think Tiffany's still set her camera up. So, you know, that's how we roll here at this show. We go live whether we're ready or not. So Mark Small has this thing called Small Talk, Dion, and I'm sure you're probably wondering what the heck Small Talk. Well, his name's Mark Small, and he has a 2-minute segment. I think you're going to find it quite entertaining tonight. He sort of pokes some fun at the GOP,
okay,
which that seems to be fair game these days. So he is a Republican. A lot of people don't believe that, but he likes to think he's like a Goldwater Republican. He's left. He's pretty left on some things. Yeah. So he's got some different viewpoints, and I know a lot of people would like to give him a hard time, but you know what, Dion? When I don't play his segment, people complain. Why didn't you play Mark Small? Okay. Well, here you go. You tell me what you think. Here comes Mark Small and Small Talk.
Okay. Hi, Mark Small for Small Talk. Do you have $192 this afternoon that you're going to invest to make sure you count somehow in your community and country? What are you going to do? Are you going to buy a share of stock in a for-profit corporation in the capitalist system, or are you going to make a donation to a not-for-profit corporation that does politics called the GOP? Let's see what rights you get buying a share of stock in IBM versus that campaign contribution to the party. And I want to make sure you understand, we're talking about elected political officials, not appointees like on the United States Supreme Court. They're leased. They're not given donations. Here we go. IBM, you get ownership interest. GOP, no. You have voting power, actually, within the entity itself. You get to go to the corporate meeting and cast a vote. Not that way here. What about dividends? They pay at IBM, not at the GOP. What about the right to inspect documents? IBM, you can do it. GOP, good luck. Right to sue if somebody screws up. Are you kidding? IBM, you can, not the GOP. And finally, you get a stock certificate. You can ask for a certificate for IBM. Might cost you a couple of bucks to get it. You can get it and print it and put it on the wall. GOP, they don't have membership cards for the Republican Party. Now remember, these conditions change from hour to hour. And you could find that the rules as posted in November 2023, for example, suddenly change overnight. And there are changes there and subparagraphs and footnotes. But you be sure of one thing. By buying into the capitalist system, you have more of a voice than if you're in a political party, the people of which actually try to run the capitalist system. Mark Small, Small Talk, peace.
Well, he was certainly animated tonight, just for you, Jamie. I'm sure of that. So, Mark has been after the bylaws for the GOP, which were written pretty much by Jim Bopp, and it's very closely held information because you can't figure out who actually owns the thing. It's like a ship in the night with no captain. It just goes. So that is Mark Small and Small Talk. So that sort of, I think it sort of spoke for itself. So let's get into our guest here, Dion. Jamie, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, kids and all that. I know we talked about it on the other show, but give us a little bit about your personal background.
Sure. So I'm a mom of 5. My husband and I have our 5 kids, 13, 11, 10, 8, and 4. I have 4 boys and 1 girl, which is wonderful. I have been in corporate America at a very young age. So at 26 years old, I was put in charge of the 2nd largest mortgage broker in California, 1,500 loan officers. My job was to protect the broker's license. So I like to think of myself as someone that's running for governor to help it protect the interests of the people, which is very much what the governor should be doing, looking out for the people, reporting as to how the General Assembly is working for the people. When it comes to my experience in school, I was an athletic director for a year. So I have been in a school before. I was helping with the accreditation process. And then I really just was doing the opposite in corporate America as most people. I was walking down the ladder. I'm a people person. So I've been in ministry for 20 years. I'm a worship leader. I am the person that has been with the moms that are crying and looking after their children is difficult for them. And so they've asked for, will someone come in and disciple? And I am that person. So I've spent a lot of years discipling kids, a lot of years, even in the inner city. My dad's from East St. Louis. And so he got out of the inner city and then he almost went into the NFL. So he was an All-American. And then he got called in to be a pastor. So he got his master's in divinity at Dallas Theological Seminary. And when he was there, he got called into the Navy. And so I'm also a military brat. Both of my parents have served in the military. When my parents got divorced, my mom actually went and got her master's in divinity and went to Washington, D.C. They waived the age limit to get in. She waived her retirement and she also served in the military. So I come from a family of service. We are not easily intimidated. Courage is something that is built into our family. I am certainly a person that's walked through the fire. I know what it's like to be in the valley. I walk my life according to my relationship with my Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. And so it is my great pleasure to be running here in the state of Indiana for governor. This calling came over 6 years ago. It was a whisper in my heart. You're going to be the governor of the state of Indiana. Sounds weird to people, but put it on the shelf and prayed over it. And then about 3 or 4 years later, we were at a Panera and 2 people came up. One week, one said that they had seen in me a love for the people that was not just for my family, and I needed to follow that love. And the next week, a man came up to me and said, that the people did not know how much the Father loves them. He gave his son. And then he said, I had a calling in my life. It was a calling for my future. I needed to let my past go. I needed to walk in that calling and allow the Lord to renew my mind that I might prove the pure and acceptable will of God. And he walked out of Panera. So I say to everyone, as I said last show, if that happens to you every day, awesome. That does not happen to me every day. As a leader, we lead diligently. We don't just say that we are to lead with vision, because scripture says, if you are a leader, you should have vision. So the question is, what is the vision for the state of Indiana? What are people actually telling you? It's one thing to talk to you about the problems. It's another thing to give you vision. We run on Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. We call that Indiana goodness. And so I get all of my wisdom right now from the book of Nehemiah, fantastic book of the Bible. Look, even if you don't read the Bible, which you should just crack it open and read it. Why wouldn't you? But if you look at the book of Nehemiah, it's amazing because the first chapter, as I said before, it talks about how the walls have been broken down and the gates have been burned with fire. In the nation right now, that's what we're experiencing. There's moral crisis going on. And so it's going to take people that are on the ground that can stand. It also will take shrewdness. Let me bring that word to the table. It requires a certain shrewdness. And so what's taking place right now with the debates is unfortunate. It's not surprising. The reason why I'm standing, the reason why I'm being vocal about it is because it's not right, and we're to stand for righteousness. All of the candidates should be saying something right now, because we do not want the party to look as if it's a party that is not including everyone, not a party that's looking for everyone to join because we so believe in our conservative principles, but we're some kind of exclusive party. We don't want people to think that. And so I'm speaking up because it's the right thing to do. But the attention that we're getting is really the icing on the cake. We have a ground game. We know how to win. And we're excited to bring the people of the state of Indiana goodness.
All right. All right. Dion, what would you like to add to this conversation?
Okay, sure. So we had talked a little bit about the prison system that exists in Indiana. I think you pretty much answered most of the questions that I had there. But one of my biggest questions that I didn't get a chance to ask, and I mentioned it during my intro a little bit, is the culture, which is a little bit harder to kind of fix, right? There's been this culture shift, especially at Indiana State Prison, less so at other institutions, but specifically, I'm very familiar with ISP, having worked there. So when I first started, it was very, and don't get me wrong, I want to make sure viewers and you understand, I am not a officers are always right, inmates are always wrong, officers hold the power, sit down and shut up kind of person. I wouldn't say I'm the opposite, but I'm very much in the middle, because the people that are serving time, even the ones at ISP, the ones that have been convicted of a crime, because the prisons are different than jails, they're still people. In many cases, they made a mistake. Some of them, I've talked to a number of people serving time at ISP. It was one night. One night, they ended up either having too much to drink or getting involved with something. They made a mistake that altered the course of the rest of their life. That said, they're still in prison. You have people that are on death row, for example, who get access to video game systems and large cells, large being a relative term. When you compare a normal cell, which is, maybe 6 by 8, 6 by 9, to these death row cells, X row, they're 3 to 5 times bigger. They're very, very large. They have a TV, which they have to buy, but they also have access to, like I said, video game systems. Do you think anyone that's serving on death row should have a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that to while away the hours while they sit and, exist on taxpayer dimes, waiting for the execution that comes after multiple appeals and this and that? And you know how the legal system is very, very slow, especially when it comes to that.
Yeah, what a question. I want to relate this to life and our position in life. Okay. Right now in the Conservative Party, life is like a buzzword. Mm-hmm. And who knew that there were so many debates in the Conservative Party about life? I didn't. And I was introduced to the conversation quite literally at a table with a representative that was not a state representative, but works at the State House. And this woman asked me where I stood on life. And I said, I'm a conservative, because sometimes people think I'm not a conservative. I wonder why. And I said, well, I'm a conservative. She said, well, yeah, I know, but where do you stand on life? And I was like, what? I believe in life because I believe that in the creator of life. I start the conversation before circumstances. I go right to the beginning. And then I just simply say that is my right. That's how I worship. And when people elect me in office, they know exactly where I stand on life. Life is a culture. Believing in life is a culture. So Indiana is very aware of the principle, you reap what you sow. So what are we sowing, right? And I think that when you're talking about the issues that are, even this one where you're talking about death row, wait, what are we sowing there? What are we sowing? We need to sow what we want to reap. And so I think that there's a couple of things that we have to do. I think that, I met with a young man and he had a great idea. He had given prisoners the opportunity to ask for forgiveness. That's good sowing. That's good sowing. Giving them the opportunity to write a letter and ask forgiveness. That's good sowing. That's going to reap good fruit. I think that giving students, if they want the opportunity, the ability to hear an inmate on death row, a confession statement that is obviously not detailed, but a repentance or giving a bit of his testimony, that might wake up a 16-year-old that's thinking about getting in a gang. That might wake up someone. I think allowing our people to speak, our grandmothers and our mothers that are experiencing a loss of child, allowing them to share their story. See, this is all something that I would do as governor because I'm a shoulder-to-shoulder leader. I spent the last 2.5 years on the ground. I am amazed at how many people come up and they just break into tears because they can see that I'm actually for them. I'm for the people. It's going to take a sacrifice right now. I'm not with my family often, but the Lord has called me. And so there are leaders the Lord is calling. We need to come together. We need to stand in unity and we need to give what the people deserve, which is goodness. It's time for goodness.
Oh, okay. And that's good. And, I guess we got Yvonne here. She just asking just straight out of the gate. Do you believe in the death penalty? So I mean, our audience, they have questions sometimes. So, and it sounds like you had, it depends maybe is
well,
the answer there.
I appreciate the question. And you should know that you shouldn't be running for gubernatorial office if you're not willing to take the hard questions. And so I'm not going to dodge this question. I will tell you that the wisdom that I get is from the scriptures, and I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible, and so what comes to mind when you ask that question is the part of scripture that talks about the thief on the cross. Right? We see that Jesus was there. There were two thieves on the cross, and so one of them said, "Hey, not hey," but one of them said, "Let us, get us down." One of them wanted him to save them from the penalty of death they were in. But the other one said, do you not know who this man is? Right? The other one pointed to the innocence of the Lord. And he said, remember me. And Jesus said to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. And so there are consequences for actions. But I believe in a God that forgives and offers eternal life. And so I will just say that when it comes to that question, I would point to that passage of scripture.
Yeah, that's a difficult choice. And I don't know, they say it takes an average of 17 years to get somebody through the process to the, and I don't even know if that's even happening these times of year. So I think that would, not to diminish your question or this topic, but it's not one that's really widely going on right now. I mean, it's rare. Let's put it this way. We got a lot of other problems. So I want to go ahead and bring on Brad and Tiffany. We don't have Lucy on yet, but I'm going to go ahead and bring Brad on here. Hey, Brad, thanks for patiently waiting for that. Brad Sawinski, he's the librarian for the children's department up at the Alexandria Monroe Library, or Monroe Alexandria. Which way is it?
Yeah, you got it that time. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Every once in a while I get one right. I'm surprised I haven't butchered somebody's name tonight because I do that as well. Brad, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I got back from California from last week. Got to see the Hollywood sign, went to Universal Studios, got my picture taken with Chief Wiggum. So my week was pretty great.
Did you fly on Spirit Airlines? That was Ed.
Oh God, no. Well, and so on the way back though, the guy next to me was looking up TikToks about Boeing and how like and it was just and I'm like sitting next to him and I'm waiting for him to start having a panic attack or something like that, because that is the dumbest thing to start looking at before.
Yeah, really.
He starts pulling out wrenches out of his carry-on. He's like, hey, tighten that up. Yeah, it's just like
but should death row inmates have access to like Xbox? Like that's just, I don't think they should, just because.
Thank you.
It doesn't seem like it. I don't see. I mean,
it seems like a luxury item.
When you say no access, like I'm sitting there going like, well, no access is an hour reasonable. I don't know, but whenever you say Xbox and death row, it just seems like it's completely off. So I don't
exactly
know.
like I can't imagine like the state prison having that on like an invoice.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, they bought like 4 Xboxes to.
I think that would give the Grand Theft Auto some reality, I would think, and you know, those Call of Duty would be like real. So, okay, let's go ahead and bring Tiffany on. She's laughing at me because she always does. Let's see what this is going to look like. Hold on, let's look at this. Oh, I like this better. Let's see how we're going to do this. Well, let's do it this way. How's that? Yeah. So, Tiffany, how are you doing? I know you were running around back there. I could see you backstage, you know, because, you know, maybe you and Jamie could talk about some beauty tips, and Brad too, probably, because, you know.
Jamie's already beautiful. Oh, my goodness.
You're so sweet.
Oh, here we go.
Brad has hair. That's why. That's how. That's
yeah. He got rid of the muttons, but I mean, he looked like.
No, they're still in there. You just gotta like comb them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're not into that detail.
So Dion, I loved you talking about working in the prison, and I was waiting for you to say that you had to call call the inmates guests. Like, I was waiting.
Yeah. We'll leave the line on Motel 6.
Well, that's the kind of the rest of the question. There is, as far as the environment goes. When I first started working there, we were allowed to call them inmates or offenders. That was the new term. Inmates was now kind of slightly taboo. Through the years, as I worked there were many attempts made to take even offender and whittle it down to client or guest.
While they're in the prison?
Oh, like, we're talking killers, rapists, the whole 9 yards. These people, we have to refer to them because we might hurt someone's feelings. And I kid you not. I it sounds ironic. It sounds hilarious, but this is all like personal lived experience. I was there. And by the time I left, to say that an officer's word wasn't good enough when compared to an inmate, and I'm not talking about these guys that go around and shake people down shake down is where they make you grab the wall and do a pat down search, right? You can use it in a very negative way. You can have these guys do it all the time. You have the quote power to do all, you know, a lot of things, but you should only do it when there's a real need for it. This guy, I have reasonable suspicion that this guy has, for example, contraband on him. There are those that go around and just do it because they can. And one of the officers who let the power go to his head was beaten to within an inch of his life with a lock and a sock, and he almost died, because that's how they respond to abuse of power, where you're outnumbered 500 more to 1. That's just the way that it is. So you have to be smart.
You're outnumbered 500 to 1. I guess calling them clients is not a bad choice of words.
It's sir.
Well,
why are they outnumbered 500 to 1? Like, why is that?
Yeah, really.
One, like, that ratio seems off, just because there shouldn't either be that many prisoners or that many need for, you know. So there should be more guards.
C Cell House is the largest cell house, the second largest cell house in the United States, the largest cell house in the state of Indiana. I want to say there's like 500 offenders that are in C Cell House, give or take. It has 2 sides, both extensive, 5 stories, huge. There are times when you're supposed to have an officer per range per side, but staff cutbacks, et cetera, you usually run the place with 3 during the day, 2 at night. So you're looking at, 500 inmates, give or take. And then if your coworker has to go to the restroom or run out to do something or whatever, it ends up being 200, 300, 400, 500 to 1. And in that circumstance, you might not want to be a jerk. You might want to, try to work. But I found firm, fair, consistent. You tell this person something, that you tell them you're going to do it, you go do it. I never had any issues personally in that regard. I was respected. I did my job. I was there to do my job. I wasn't there to make friends. But there was very much a culture shift from the beginning, when it was offenders, inmates. And one interesting thing I found is that the older inmates prefer the term convict because that's what it used to be before it became inmates. Convicts, inmates, offenders, clients, guests.
Justice involved. I've heard that comment. Justice involved.
Yes. Yes.
That's a new term too.
Yeah.
But,
They justice involved. Right.
People always talk about there's people that we're afraid of and people that we're mad at. So from your experiences, was it more people you're afraid of or people that society is mad at?
Oh, it was definitely more. That's the thing is the vast majority of the people serving prison time are regular people who made mistakes. There is a tiny subset that are animals. And that's just the reality of it. These people will never get better, but they represent a small fraction of the people that are in prison.
I'm interested in your thoughts on this because on my journey, we normally run into things in segments. So I'm actually in the midst of many people coming across my path talking about prison. So this is good timing. I was told that because of the lack of space, they are now pairing up people that have short sentences with people that have much longer sentences. And I was told that originally they were supposed to be separated.
Yes.
And now they're pairing them up. And so when I talked to this prisoner that was actually in prison for 15 years, he was talking about how they're breeding almost a prison community because you've got these people that have sentences for long periods of time, and they're like buddying up with these people that have short sentences, and they're mentoring them. And it's not obviously good mentoring. And then these people go back out into culture, and they are just repeat offenders. And so I think that the system is broken.
Yeah, that's broken.
It's not prison reform; it's prison transform. We really need to transform the system. There needs to be accountability, so that has to be in place. I've heard of an integrity unit in Marion County. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of community understanding that it's not meant to be. The police are not meant to be against people; they're there to protect all the people, and we believe that of them, right? And so I think accountability is a good thing for everyone present. So no matter what side of the conversation you're on, to have accountability for everybody, which is what this integrity unit provides, I think is a good thing. When we're talking about this issue with such an influx into the prisons, what we're talking about is an issue with the family, right? So we have to go backwards. We have to ask the question, why are they getting into the prison in the first place? And again, I think that comes down to really mentoring, exposing children to the consequences. You reap what you sow. This is an easy thing to understand. We all deal with this in our lives. If you sow good, you should be reaping good. If you sow something negative, you're going to reap something negative. Sometimes that's off. There's an injustice. In my case right now, I've been sowing good into the state of Indiana for the last 2.5 years, and the Republican Party is bound and determined not to have me on the debate stage. That doesn't make sense. That's not sowing good, reaping good. And so they're being held accountable, right? And so that's where I'm talking about this integrity unit. That's where I'm talking about people being able to say, nope, I'm looking at the situation. This person has done good. This person should be commended for what they've done. But we want to be a culture that encourages our children to sow good, to be kind and respectful, to be educated. And so we have to fix what we're doing wrong. Education is a good transition to that. But I did want to just tell you that I have been talking to people about the prisons, and it's disappointing to see where we are. The fact that we are overrun. I mean, there's just there's so many people in prison. I mean, is it getting to the point now where almost every one of us could know a person that's in prison? I mean, doesn't that say something about, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, doesn't it say something about our culture?
Files and cupcakes. I'm telling you, it's tough.
We have to talk about it. We have to figure out what's going on, and we have to come up with some solutions. And I think education is a huge solution for that.
Yep. So I want to get.
Can I just say one thing?
Just hold on one second. We're going to get into education next. But Jamie, you have a lot of ideas. Tell our viewers where they can go to your website to see your platform and to get involved. I mean, if they want to get involved, where would they go?
Yeah, you can go to Jamie, JAMIE, 4, ingov.com. You can choose your social media, and it'll take you to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We would love for you to get involved. We have on our social media right now the opportunity for you to actually get your voice heard in regards to the debates. So March 26th is the Fox 59 debate. March 27th is Wish TV. We just think the Republican Party needs to do what they say, which is that they are trying to include everyone and make sure all voices are heard. When you have 43% of the public that's undecided after $17 million was spent and Mike Braun knocked on 250,000 doors, it means that people want to hear another voice. So all of that's already happened. He has already done that. They have already spent the money. The frequencies and impressions have already been out into the public, and the public is still at a 43% undecided. That means they want discussion. They want everyone at the table. And so we're encouraging people to get involved because it's the right thing for the Conservative Party to do.
So you need to call Channel 59 and call Channel 8, or what that's what we used to call it back in the day when we had 3 channels, Channel 8. And you need to tell them, hey, we want to have these, we want all the candidates on there. So, I'd say the Republican Party in Indiana says we have a big tent, but it seems like it's more like a pup tent. We don't really want everybody. We want just certain everybody's. And so this will be a good chance for these other candidates, if you happen to be watching, and you should be watching, get some good ideas from Jamie. These other candidates, you should not go on these debate stages unless, doggone it, everybody's on there. So
Jamie, I was just wondering, I was reading something that said that you got 6,000 signatures and everybody was very surprised. So I think you definitely do raise the case for people wanting an additional voice. What was the reason for you being excluded?
So Fox 59, they have a requirement. I think theirs is the $100,000 and a 5% in their poll. They did, however, say that there's a 4% margin of error. And they said, and then they said in small print, but we don't have to take in account the margin of error. So they don't have to take it into account. Okay. And then the second debate was a $300,000 requirement. So you'd have to check the details on that to make sure that those are right. But I'm pretty sure my team's here and they're saying that's a go. So that was the requirement. And we haven't seen these polls necessarily, but they say they were taken by independent people. I'm just saying, even with their independent polls, 43% are undecided. And that says a lot because, again, everyone has to take into consideration that politics is ran on frequency and impression. And so if you choose to do it the political way, which is with millions of dollars, they're paying people millions of dollars to tell them how many frequencies and impressions you can make on a voter before they'll vote for you. This is the way it's done. We don't do it that way. We choose to do a ground game. There's 2 ways to win in politics. It's either that way or the miraculous ground game. And we choose the second, which is why we got the signatures and they didn't know we were coming.
Yeah, I think what these networks are using on you is the old George Carlin rule. It's a club and you ain't in it. And that's, Lucy's catchphrase is taxation is theft, but that has certainly been my quote to go to is it's a club and you ain't in it. Let's talk about education. So Brad or Tiffany, you could ask a question to Jamie about education, but I'm not trying to guide you. But on the last show, she has a very, very detailed education plan that I think it doggone it might even work.
I'll nibble. Will you please share with us your education plan?
Let me tell you guys something so funny. Okay, so this is what's so funny. When you get on the debate stage, you have like 2 minutes to talk. 60 seconds to 2 minutes, and you're just trying to get the people everything you can in that small amount of time while not being completely distracted by the fact that everybody is just on repeat all the time with the same point. And it's so hard to get out all the plans, but I'm happy to tell you that we have spent over 2.5 years on our policies. With education, we come in K through 5, we're bringing it back to the essentials. We're focusing on the core, reading, writing, arithmetic, language. We are making sure that we are just looking at the core things, even taking out technology. So we are doing that, taking out technology K through 5. K through second grade, there's been a little miscommunication. We have said that we want to have the students tested. There's a better word for that. We need to say evaluation is going to take place.
Okay.
Because what we're seeing is that teachers, whenever they're in the kindergarten classrooms, they've got different backgrounds coming into the classroom. So some have come from a preschool background, some have not. And so some kids know their vowels, some do not. And so what we're saying is the first 2 to 3 weeks of K through second grade, we want to create what we're calling the Waymaker program, which means that kids that are already reading can move up and kids that are not reading yet can stay. And so we just want to give teachers the ability to really shape their classes with parents involved We want parent involvement. That's huge. But we want to give them the opportunity to shape their classes in such a way that's going to facilitate an environment for all of the children to succeed. And so K through 5, we have that focus. We take technology out. 6th grade, we actually bring technology in. You have Adopt a Highway. We are encouraging the private sector to adopt a classroom. What we'd like to see is our business sector coming in and basically giving our 6th graders 30 minutes to talk to them about how AI technology innovation, how all of that is working in their specific interests. We know that might be a conversation that seems over their head, but we can tell from video games and everything else that's on the internet now, it can take a lot more than we think. And what we want to do is introduce the conversation, because in about 10 years, the workforce is going to change, and we want Hoosiers to be ready for that. 7th and 8th grade, we're bringing back trade. So that's all the trade that we can get in there. We're looking at workshop, cooking, sewing. And then whenever you go into your freshman year of high school, we're asking the question, college, career, or calling. So we want students to enter high school asking the question, what do you want to do your freshman year? Just posing that question, because vision is so important for children. And we don't want them going into college, spending thousands of dollars and realizing, why the heck am I here? This isn't what I wanted. And so then we end it by saying that senior year, every child in the state of Indiana should have completed an apprenticeship. People say, how are you going to do that? That's impossible. It's not. It's happening in the state of Indiana right now. There are many counties that have internships and Ivy Tech. And so all we're doing is we're calling it a statewide thing. It takes leadership. It just means that you go out and you say, look, we're all going to point in the same direction. My head of education, Paige Miller, she's a mom for Liberty, 30 years experience, master's in administration. Her whole vision is that her team will not be they're not going to be brick and mortar. They're going to be out of the department. They're going to be out of the state house. They're going to be in the high schools, in the middle schools, in the elementary schools, working for the people. And so we are excited about our vision for education. And we think that it's time for educators that have a passion for education to get involved and to make the difference that they were really made to make. And we're going to give them the opportunity to do that.
Wow, that's cool. Now, I heard that very detailed plan there. And, I was a substitute teacher for the last couple of years. And one of the things that I noticed that vary is respect and discipline. So how would you implement that in your program? Because that's sort of a bigger view, an outside view looking down, and maybe that starts with the family, breakdown or whatever. So how will you approach that?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple ways that you approach it, and you really have to approach it from a community standpoint, because it isn't just one area that's going to fix the problem. It's really everybody working together. I'm happy to see that there are many nonprofits, many churches that are involved in the schools now. These churches are opening up their doors so that kids can come there after school and get tutored, and then they're giving them lunch or dinners for for that evening. And then even on the weekends when they don't have food, these churches are actually becoming places where they can go and get food for the weekend. So I'm very happy to say that the hands and feet in the state of Indiana are working well. When it comes to being inside the classroom, I have 5 children under 13 years old, and I have discipled kids for over 20 years. And what I can say is that kids need to be busy. They need to be busy. When they have time on their hands, they oftentimes use that time in ways that are not great. And so what we want to do is bring vision to the classroom. We want to give them the opportunity to be able to look forward, right? Even in kindergarten, we want to see the private sector coming in, the firefighters, the police officers, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers. We want people coming in and saying like, hey, I run a podcast. This is what I do. We want our kids to be busy, because when they're busy and they're focused on things that are good, it takes away all the time they have to be negative. And so we're really bringing to the table support for teachers. They need to be paid what they deserve to be paid because they're educating our students. So we're bringing support to teachers, and then we're bringing vision as to how we can point our students towards things that are going to be good long-term. So it's not just education for the sake of learning, it's education for the sake of making a difference in your life. You need your education. And we want to make sure that teachers are communicating the importance of that.
Brad, I want you to talk about this. We just had a bill that is going to hold back third graders if they can't read. So, hey, maybe you should fashion a question towards that, since you are the librarian dude on this show. It's just a
Oh yeah, no. Well, can I ask another question at the end though?
No, you can ask it now. I'm just,
Well, no, because
I see Lucy coming on back here. So let me go ahead. I think she's ready. Let me bring Lucy on here. Oh, look, we got the Hollywood Squares going now. So Lucy, it's you're driving again tonight. So you are in the shadows.
Yes, for all those of you that know, I have 10 kids, and so there's always somebody that needs me to drive them someplace. And today it was thanks to the lack of customer service and timeliness of the airports that has me driving out this late at night.
Spirit Airlines. Imagine it. Spirit Airlines got you again, I'm sure.
It was. I mean, it's, they got poor Ed, so now they're after me.
They got them. So this is the question that someone was getting ready to ask. But now you can ask actually it's Brad's turn. Brad, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. All right. So a portion of your plan was inviting Paige Miller and Moms for Liberty into schools. And that sounds pretty terrifying. She's claimed that teachers are indoctrinating students, with whatever boogeyman kind of thing is in her head.
Theory and social emotional learning.
Yeah, and CRT for some reason with
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, I guess, lessen people's fear and calm them down if that's who your head of education is?
I point people to results. How's it working?
But they have no results yet. All they've done is
results. There's results. There's iLearn tests that are out, and we've got a 34% passing rate for 3rd through 8th graders in iLearn. And so when I'm in these communities and I'm talking to communities where their kids are learning these things, I ask parents, how's that going for you? Do you see, is critical race theory and social emotional learning helping your kids learn to read better?
Is it in the school? Like, it's not even there though.
Oh, no, it is in the school. It is absolutely in the school.
It is there.
Okay, but wait.
The idea of introducing a topic is not indoctrinating students.
Oh, that's an opinion. You're talking about impressionable kids at a young age. That's an opinion. I disagree with you.
The curriculum is wrapped around it. It's there, Brad. Yeah. It's like salt. It's in the sauce.
But you guys are disregarding the parents' influence on the child.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that anyone that is talking to a child at a young age has influence on them.
It's true.
That's just a fact.
But my son was being talked to by weird men on the pier in Santa Monica about Jesus, and all my son asked was like, why are these guys talking to me? Never once. And I asked him afterwards, I was like, do you believe in this now? Do you want to go follow it? No.
Hey, Brad, I came in late and I missed a lot of the conversation, so I'm coming in a little bit blind. But what I'd like to add is, what is the context there? When we put children in a situation in school, I mean, as parents, we're there to support the teachers and support the authority of the school and the principal and the teachers. And we're literally telling our children, this is a class of people that you can trust second only to me, your mom. Some random guy that's weird, that's, yelling about Jesus on a pier or Hare Krishna in an airport, they don't have the exposure and length of time.
Too. Like, you pick up on weird teachers too.
Yeah, but you don't get Hare Krishnas. You don't get Hare Krishnas every day where you're not literally get ready in the morning and go to be indoctrinated. And of course, everything is indoctrination.
But Lucy, their whole argument is if they see one book, they will be changed for life. If they
I got news for you, Brad. I can name a couple of books where just one book changed my life, and I'm not talking about the Bible either.
But but Lucy, the cover of it, like something that you just happened to pass by.
I don't know. Is it pornographic? Is it something? Is it something that's like a bomb? Like right now over in Gaza, they have like bombs that look like cans of meat. Is it a trap? Are you literally laying a trap for these kids? Like there was that book that looked like it was all about sailboats, and it was actually about homosexuality and LGBTQ issues. That's not appropriate for my 9-year-old.
What if their friend's 9-year-old has like lesbian parents?
Eric can talk to him about it.
Then I'm going to talk. Heck, I have lesbians in my family. I have homosexuals in my family. We talk about it. It's love is love. I'm a libertarian, so I'm very social, or I'm very liberal in that kind of social context. But they're not living at my house.
No, but
I'm not taking those books out from the library. Yeah, and you know what else they know exists? They know that poison exists and fentanyl exists. They know that evil rapists exist. I mean, there are reasons that we don't go to certain neighborhoods There are reasons that we are wise with the decisions that we make about what we expose our children to and what we expose ourselves to. I'm an adult and I don't watch horror movies because I don't want that in my head.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still scared from that Amityville horror movie and then the Friday the 13th. Never watched any other ones after that one. That was it.
I didn't watch the true crime shows either.
Remember when Chucky came out way back then? I'm 44.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like, seriously, my parents would not ever allow us to watch that, but I was at a friend's house and they allowed me to watch it, and it made a huge impression on me. This is what we're doing as parents. We're putting our kids in school for them to have an academic education. When it comes to the things that involve the morals and values of our kids' lives, that's something that we as parents are meant to talk to them about, not something that we want our teachers trying to influence them in. Stick to math, stick to reading. You're not doing so great a job of that. That's just factual because you're looking at the scores. And so what we're here to do is not criticize teachers. We're here to say, we think that your hand's been tied behind your back. You don't have enough time in the classroom to communicate the things that you need to. We're going to help get you that time. We're going to listen to what you're going through. We're going to give you the courses. We're going to give you the curriculum. We're going to make sure that you can pour into students the way that you went to college to learn to pour into students.
But colleges are just indoctrination factories, right?
Not all
maybe.
That's what I've been
Everything is indoctrination.
You can generalize anything, but really it's not everyone.
How about this? I think that how schools got involved with this was there's a void coming from the family. Could you how would you change? I don't know if change culture is the right word. How would you improve how we treat each other culturally? And social media, you can look at social media, how we beat each other up on social media, but when you have a face-to-face, you're not so harsh. How would you lead in a way that would, I guess, make culture better? And I know the education is the foundation of that, but there's more than that. There's that outside of education. That's the gap between school and the parents. I don't know if there's a question in there, but
one of the things that I love, I had this vision for the state of Indiana, bringing in a massive wooden table to put right in the middle of the state house. And on the skirt of the table would be "We the People." And the idea there is that the people of the state of Indiana would walk into the state house and they would sit down and they'd have a seat. Actually, I met with the Amish community just recently to ask if they would be willing to build the chairs for that table. Because we want to bring an environment where people can come to the table and reason together. We're doing that right now. I mean, we don't all agree on this show on everything, but we're having a respectful conversation with one another. And so I'm a shoulder-to-shoulder leader. Leaders get out in front when they need to, and I can do that, which is what I'm doing with the debates. I'm telling the state of Indiana, they're not going to sit here and treat me like this because I've been a Republican my whole life. And I know that this is not the foundation of our party. This is not how we were meant to be. And so I'm going to stand for what's right. But I'm a shoulder-to-shoulder leader. I'm a person that says there are many people in the state of Indiana, beautiful people that have great qualifications, experience, that want to come to the table and teach kids what it looks like to be respectful. That is something kids need to see. They need to see Mouthwash at the table in the middle of the state house. They need to see us demonstrating for them what it looks like to be responsible and have responsible conversation. When they see all of our faces and all of our backgrounds, and they look at that and go, wow, that's good, right? I told you that I run on Indiana goodness. Do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. Oftentimes conservatives stay in this area where it's like, I just want to complain about everything that's going on. Well, stop complaining and bring good to the table. And so that's what I appreciate about what you guys are doing. And that's what I appreciate about what I believe Hoosiers have to offer. They're a hardworking state. They're beautiful people. And I think that we are actually a state that can impact our youth by showing them by example how to have kind and respectful conversation, even though we have differences.
Well, I love that because that's what we try to do when we set out on this mission over 3 and some years ago of having civil conversation. And, honestly, we've only had one guest that we had a problem with out of all those guests. And he said, hey, Lucy, I'll tell you this right now. Mark Powell has refriended me back on Facebook. So, we're making small steps there.
He's only spying. His intent is still evil.
Yeah. Well, see, but guests and people, they like being on our show because, as you said, you have a debate stage where you have 2 minutes. People that watch this show Yeah, people that watch it. Let me talk a little bit, okay? Let me just talk a little bit. I mean,
I'm
I
so
know it's
sorry,
like
Shakespeare.
I know you're used to me not talking, but I don't.
No,
We
you're
don't.
exceptionally verbose today. So go
I
at
know
it.
it. I am. I'm excited about this. This is exciting. I mean, I
You must,
love it.
must have had
Uh,
something. Had a pill.
yeah, that's right. Well, wait till the conspiracy theory you tell. Did we warn you about the conspiracy theory, Jamie?
Yeah.
I want to ask Jamie a
Oh,
question.
ask your question, Tiffany. Oh.
No, Jamie, when I was audio only, I heard you say that you're a military brat. So what branch?
Navy.
Okay, fantastic. And where all have you lived? Because I asked this because when you have lived in other places, you bring so much to the table in terms of what you've seen and experienced. And I think that for me, like being on council here in Fishers, it's like I've lived a lot of different places. I choose to call this one home. So I'm interested to hear where you've lived and how that's influenced you.
Right. When people ask me where I'm from, I'm always like, oh, what do you mean by that?
Over there.
So interestingly enough, so I've lived in California, Michigan, Illinois, Texas, Indiana. And I never had to go overseas, which I kind of regret because I think that would have been valuable. My dad actually passed up that billet because in high school we were in sports, and as a kid that grew up in the inner city, sports was really the way that you get to college. And so we lived and breathed sports. I got my college scholarship in field hockey. So we were all the time sports, but in the military, my dad was actually stationed in California a lot. We went to Northern California at a weapons station there. He was in the Gulf War. And then after he was in the war, we ended up going down to Southern California, the San Diego area. There's multiple bases there. He was stationed at Camp Pendleton for some time. So he worked with the Marines. Marines don't have chaplains. My dad was a chaplain. So the Marines don't have chaplains, but the Navy chaplains serve Marines. And so he worked with the Marines there, and then he was at a few other bases. But again, he passed up his opportunity for greater promotion by going overseas, which at the time when you're young, you don't realize that your parents are doing that. Then you get older and realize, wow, he really made a sacrifice. But he retired as a lieutenant commander, and the military experience I had was unique. I don't think that the people of the United States of America understand what our military really goes through. Our families that have people that leave and have no idea when they're coming back. It's an incredible strain. Did you know that they have something called a war report card, which means that when your family member's at war, you can have your report card completely. It'll just be like dismissed. I mean, they won't even look at it because of the strain that is on a child in that time. Now that was happening when I was younger, so I know.
I need that. Where was that?
But yeah, that's something that they do. I remember when my dad went into the war, actually, it was my 6th grade year. So he left before I started 6th grade. He was on a Westpac, which is 6 months. And while he was out, then the war started. And so once the war starts, they go on lockdown and they can't tell you where they are. And I remember that when he came home, we were all on, so he was on an ammunition ship, A35. So when he came home, we were all on the dock, we were all waiting. And so they have a certain way that they do things. The captain has, the captain's wife goes on, and then the chaplain's family goes on. There's a certain way that they do. There's all kinds of order. And so I remember we got on the ship. My dad showed us his stateroom. He gave us everything that he had saved up. And we got into the car. And I just remember I got into the car. I'm like probably 13 years old. And I just started crying. Couldn't stop crying. And my dad said, Jamie, I'm home. I'm fine. I'm home. And my mom said, just let her cry. She's been holding it in the whole time. People do not understand what our military does. Mm-hmm. And when we walk into a situation like COVID and they disrespect our freedom, they don't understand what our military does. They make a sacrifice so that we can have the conversations we're having now. And I think that it would be good of us to look at our veterans, look at the people that have served, the people that are now retired, and say to them, come back in. Our administration says to veterans, we want you back. We want you back in the classroom teaching constitutional courses. We want students to actually be able to look at you whenever you're teaching about the Constitution and look at a person that gave their life because they believe in the principles of our nation. And so, yes, I am a military brat, and the military families of the United States are very strong. Talk about being able to come together with differences. I mean, that's a community that just shows it like nothing I've ever seen. You could be from rural and inner city, and it does not matter whenever you are out in the field. It does not matter because they're trying to survive. So I think our military is a great example of what we can offer as a people, and we would do well to use them as an example.
I love that. I do think there is value in normalizing service during one's professional career, because even if you stay in the military and retire, it's only 20 years. You're going to get out in your 40s. And so there's still work ahead of you.
Yes.
And I think, as I go around and I meet people, I was like, yeah, I was active duty. That was something that everybody I knew, that was something everybody did.
Right.
And so it's always just a space on your resume. And I think it's important, the more kids will see it, the more that they'll understand that just because you're in the military doesn't mean that you're actually going to die. And that you can actually get some skills, get some experiences, and live different places. So,
Yeah.
but
It does seem like we have a shortage in just about everything right now. I mean,
everything
from
that's
teachers
good.
to-
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it is. I know
Everything.
doctors. I know doctors that aren't retiring because they can't. I mean, because there's nobody to fill the spot. We don't have. There's a pilot shortage. There's military is suffering. We have a lot of the.
A lot of people are at home on TikTok.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. Hold on, before Dion, let me get to.
And please don't mess up my internet outside forces.
I won't. But this was our. Sometimes we do these polls and people over politics. If you're not on that, join that group on Facebook. We have about almost 1,000 viewers. 1,000 people in that group. The question this week was: is TikTok a threat to our national security? 44% said yes. 53% no, 2% undecided. We had a total of 45 voters. So that's you can take that out. So
I think it's a threat, and somebody can probably give me better words. It's a threat to producing an ambitious future generation, because all of a sudden everybody's attention span is so small. People are seeking non-traditional roles and stuff people want to be influencers, and they've removed the dignity of work, hard work, education, and kids want to take a faster path forward. And what that's going to do, to your point, is there's going to be a tremendous brain drain in our country in 20, 30 years. And when I was knocking doors, I met this kid. I thought he was 23 years old. He was 33. He just moved home. He told me that he couldn't work because the office environment wasn't for him. And, he didn't feel comfortable being gone all day. And he had all of these things that made him a victim. But I was looking at him and I was thinking, you're 33 years old. You've missed 10 years of a 401k, a company match, compounding interest, owning your own home. And I was like, wow, he's going to retire and live in a dormitory and get half a Bitcoin a month. And he will like it.
He'll be good with
He
that.
had no choice because he was robbed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, go ahead, Dion. It's go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, real quick. I'm not sure how much your viewers know. Mine, I talk about it quite frequently, but one of the going back to schools just really quickly, and why I really like your plan is we're told by schools and administrators and the people in charge of the whole thing that the entire solution is more money. As long as we give them more money, our schools will be fixed. Over half of Indiana's budget goes to education, quite a bit more than half. And it continually goes up every budget year. It goes up and up and up and up and up. And we're having a situation here. The LaPorte School District is missing millions of dollars. Their audit by the SBOA has tens of millions of dollars that have, now I'm not saying it disappeared, but in the audit, the money is unaccounted for. It's incorrect here. It's incorrect there. Their superintendent gets paid almost $200,000 a year. LaPorte's it's a small town. I mean, it's a city, but it's not really. And why are we paying these people so much? We have massive administrative costs that seem to go up and up and up, but performance is going down and down and down. I wanted to say one thing really quickly, and that is, have you communicated with Jennifer Ruth Green? Because she ran for U.S. Congress for District 1. She's very involved she's a pilot, I believe, and she has a pilot training program that she has set up. So it may be a good idea to communicate with her if you have not already.
Well, I will tell you right now, if Jennifer Ruth Green is watching, we would love to talk with her. And I've had a few people that have brought up her name. And so what I do on this journey is I wait for people to come. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to pull them in for any political reason, because that's not how I work. But I admire her. I admire her strength. And I think that she would be a fantastic asset for education in our state, specifically because we do have a shortage in pilots worldwide. And so kids are looking for people that they can call a role model. This is just, they're the same kids as when we were younger. They've just been exposed to more technology. And so we have to balance that out, which means we need to come forth with real good creativity. We need to work hard to make sure that we're offering them programs that they're going to look at and enjoy. And that means rolling up your sleeves and working. I will tell you that, the first 90 days for in office, I've said this before, we're going to be right out of the gate. We're going to be dealing with education. We're going to make sure that we're out of the state house. We're in the classroom. K through 5, as we talked about, we're going to be doing the essentials. And then we're going to be going and doing, as I said, that evaluation, kindergarten to 2nd grade. We want to make sure that kids are in the right place. We don't want to see kids, all 3rd graders, held back. Like, what are we talking about? And so we have to do evaluations. We have to be wise about that. But we also have plans for other areas of our state as well. We want to make sure that we are looking at our small businesses, getting them prepared to do apprenticeships their senior year. We want to look at Gary, Indiana. We've got our eyes on Gary. We like that airport there, and we think that airport might be the key to turning that whole city around. When it comes to our small towns, we want to connect our small towns. I love this idea because really the millennials and the younger generation, how they're all into this, tiny home. That's totally not my generation. Okay. And so it's kind of hard for me to understand, but I'm working on it. They're really into this tiny homes. And I think that's great. I think that small towns offer this possibility. And so we are looking at small, under 1,000, small towns, and how we can connect them. Reviving the rails is one of the ways that we'd like to see that done. We've been looking at the rails, Department of Transportation. We want to not expand the footprint with Department of Transportation. We want to revive what's already here. And actually there was a letter that was sent from, I don't know if it was Biden or Trump, honestly, but they sent something out from the Department of Transportation from a federal perspective saying we don't need to keep expanding. We need to really focus on building the infrastructure that we already have. And so we'd like to look at the rails, connect our small towns. You've got the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. What you want to see in the state of Indiana is the Indiana Goodness Train is what we call it. We love to see a coffee shop on that and a kitchenette there, and the colleges and universities taking their culinary arts department through there so that you're always getting a new tasting, and not allowing them, by the way, to do lunch, breakfast, dinner, because we'd want to have that opportunity for the small towns. So we've thought through this. I've actually been in the small towns that I'm talking about, so I'm not just saying it. I know that some of these small towns have sold some of their homes on Main Street and some of their businesses for like $1 because they just want the small town to come back. And so we've been talking to those places saying, are you ready for a small town revival? And they are. And I love the idea of it. So we're looking at farms, diversifying our agricultural portfolio. We're looking at things like regeneration, like you've got hydroponics and those kinds of things. But can we lead our farmers down a path of next generation farmers and the current generation coming together and thinking about how Indiana can really be a place where farming is the next thing to do, instead of it being maybe something that we're always doing. And I really think farmers have that in them. They have a certain stubbornness, which I love. They have a certain independence, which we need. And we want to see their wisdom passed on to the next generation. So we're working on bridging that gap as well. There's a lot of plans that we have. We know that when we get in, we want to put these plans forward because we're going to be spending time auditing the other areas of the state. That's just the truth. I used to work in fraud. So I like to work. I like to look into things, and we've got people on our team that work in fraud departments. And so right now we're auditing the budget. We're very serious about what we're doing. We want to find out all of the stuff that's being wasted, and we want to bring that out. News conferences every Tuesday, local press in the front, national press in the back, reporting on the General Assembly, the bills that are passed, the bills that make committee, the bills that don't. Names are going to be dropped. It's time for accountability for our state. It's healthy. It's healthy. The power is the safest in the hands of the people.
Yeah, excellent. Now, Jamie, I want to say that if this is any indication of how your campaign is going to take off, we started with 30 people when we first started watching. We're up to 77. It just keeps growing up of our watching. And that's like, you're like in second place. Dr. Dan Stock is the record holder at over 100. So maybe we can get there from here. So we're going to do one more line of questioning. We're going to start with Lucy, go to Tiffany, to go to Brad. And then we've already been on here an hour and 10. So yeah, it just, and I've already heard a lot of this stuff for the second time, and I'm still interested. So Lucy, what is your final question for this grilling interview here that we've just put her on the spotlight and everything here?
Well, first, Jamie, you said all the things are after my own heart, and I really want to thank you. You just have such an elegant and intelligent presence. So thank you for being you, because it's clear that you have Hoosiers, in the right place. So my question for you is, let's pretend you can change only one thing. What do you think is the top priority for the Hoosier State right now?
Education. How do you improve the workforce if you don't have an educated public? How do you bring in jobs, high-paying jobs, if the Hoosiers are not ready for those jobs? We have to deal with the fact that the education gate has been burned down. We've got to rebuild it. We've got to call all hands on deck. Educators that are passionate about education. I'm talking about teachers that live education, that love education, that when they get up there, I remember my chemistry teacher, he used to have chalk all over him. I still remember it my senior year, yellow chalk all over him, but he was so passionate about chemistry. We need teachers to be what they have always dreamed of being, passionate about teaching, and then take that passion and give it to the students. And so I absolutely think that education is what we have to focus on. The second thing I would say is we've got to get the IEDC out of there, and we've got to start auditing the state and getting out of the state these programs that are just blown up and useless. I look at Florida, Texas, Arkansas. I look at their governments. Our state is not like their state. Indiana is a beautiful state. She's unique. And so we have to look at her. She's not one size fits all, as we all know. And that's what makes her special. And I want to say this because we mentioned this before. When it comes to like different counties and sometimes the competition that comes between counties, look, I'm a fan of borders, no boundaries. I'm saying in the state of Indiana, we need to have no boundaries here. We need to all be for one another. We need to be in the city, encouraging the rural areas, in the rural areas, encouraging the city. We need to have a message as the entire state of Indiana that we're for families, that we're for people coming here and enjoying living. And that is going to attract people that are going to want to build our economy and be healthy citizens in our state. And so, yes, I would say that education is my primary platform.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Lucy, hey, Jamie, you have, impressed Lucy, which is not easy to do. So that, and you're approaching the record viewership on our show. I mean, I don't know how it can get any better other than
this is proof I need to be on the debate stage, right?
Yeah, that's right. Here's something for you. Say these people don't want to do this. How about we do you, Curtis, Rainwater, and who's the Democrat running?
Jennifer.
How about we do a debate with all those people? Upstate. That would be. I know Donald Rainwater would be up for it. He's fearless, and
I was just
what's McCormick got to lose? Brad could talk McCormick into doing it. So we'll see. But I think we're gonna. You're our guy. You're our guy that we go to. I got a picture with Jennifer McCormick. I'll put up here someday. I don't think she's pleased with that because I was in an education meeting and they were talking about the voucher. And I said something about, well, if these schools would do better, people would want to go there. And then they threw me out of the meeting. So anyway, true story. I got some looks. Not been invited back, but hey, make people want to go places, not have to go. That's what I'm going to say. But anyway, Tiffany, the show is doing very good. Don't screw it up with a bad question. So what's your final question? Oh, wait, you got to unmute.
I know. So excited. Jamie, thank you for sharing so much with us. I think you'd be great on the stage with the other candidates. Your ideas, your passion, your energy, definitely on par with the other candidates. In fact, that's why I was late, because I was at a candidate forum before coming here. And I love what you've shared about your story and your plan. So my question is, what one question do you wish we would have asked you?
Oh,
we're so thorough.
Wait, Tiffany, it might be my question. Like,
oh dear.
Yeah, and then he wouldn't get the credit.
That'll be.
It is going to be this question.
Then it's my fault, right? Because I stole it from you, Brad.
Yeah.
Really?
Basically, yeah.
I'll tell you, you guys do a great job of asking questions. I've actually watched you guys for some time, and even whenever I was in the waiting period, I was watching your show. So I want you to know that I appreciate you. I actually do know your personality as well. It means a lot to me that I have the respect of the conversation. And so I just want you to know your respect is something that I appreciate, and I respect you all. I would just say this. I don't know that you haven't asked a question, but I would say this. What I'm doing requires sacrifice, a lot of sacrifice. I'm not with my children because I'm called. And I want the people of the state of Indiana to know that you need to think about the people that you're putting into office, because the decisions they make affect the dining room table. They affect your families. It's time that we study who's going into office. It's time that we get past the stump. It's time that we look at, is this person actually a career politician just trying to go from spot to spot to spot, just running until they get elected? Or is this person really after the heart of Indiana? What is beautiful about the state of Indiana is her people. She has a beautiful people. We have much to offer the United States. I want the state of Indiana to be the training capital of the United States. That is what I believe she was meant for. And so I think you guys have done a great job asking questions, but I want people to understand that what I do is like 20-hour days. And I'm not kidding. I just got out of a 20-hour day and it was a lot. I didn't know at 44 years old, I could do that. I don't know if I'll do that again.
You got 5 kids. Come on.
I know, but 20 hours, what in the world? Okay. So Brad, I appreciate that question, Tiffany. Thank you. Brad, what do you got for me?
My question is, what are your plans to enable transparency in the government? Holcomb just signed in a law, an amendment like in HEA 1337. It's about the public. Wait, who's that?
Access counselor.
Thank you, Tiffany. I don't know how you
Oh my
are
goodness.
aware of that one.
That's why we have Tiffany on the show.
Yeah. And then there's an amendment that it makes it so appointed committees of a government agency are not required to adhere to the state's open door law. So I feel like there's already a lot of, there's never a lot of transparency, I feel, from the Republican Party. And I feel like them excluding you from the debate is just insane, especially when you got enough signatures to qualify. It's like they are, they're taking themselves out by doing that, which I don't understand why. So I guess, what are your plans just to enable transparency with citizens of the state?
Well, I appreciate the question. I actually am very familiar with the public access counselor, Luke Britt. I have done work in FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. When I moved here, I moved into a brand new home. So we're backed up 2 weeks into being in it. And it turned into a three-year ordeal, which also ended in us being in court. I've represented my family in court now for 3 years. I'm not a lawyer. I had to learn the whole process. I had to learn that. Did you know that you write orders for the judge? Did you know that? I had to learn all of that. And in the process, the way that we were getting our information was through FOIA. And so I would FOIA the city. I actually had a 4-hour tutorial with the public access counselor because I kept getting denied through FOIA. And finally, I sent one in. And wouldn't you know, the city sent me back a bunch of emails that were redacted. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm talking to you about my home and you're going to redact a paragraph about my home? What is wrong with you? Like, this is insanity. I agree with you that there's trouble in the area of transparency, and it's so intense that it requires, one, all of us to admit it, and two, everyone to say, we're just going to go to the extreme now and just say, let's be absolutely transparent with everything. That's why I said on Tuesdays, we're going to have a press conference. The state of Indiana can know that my administration every Tuesday morning will be out, local press in the front. You guys would have a seat. And then in the back is the national press. You can ask us any questions. We're going to answer. If we don't know the answer at the moment, we're going to say we're going to get it for you, and you're going to be able to follow up the next Tuesday and make sure that we do. We are asking you to hold us accountable. We are giving you the opportunity to do so. No other candidate's going to do that because they don't want to be behind the gun, asked to be transparent, because I'm telling you what government does behind closed doors is not right. It's not right, because if it's behind closed doors and we can't see it, it's not right. So we need to change that. We need to do everything right in front of the people. That's where we're going to be able to see people trust again. That's where people are going to start getting involved in the process again. That's where we're going to have more health in our societies. It's the right thing to do. It's Indiana goodness.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is all 4 of us get press passes, and you too, Dion, to the State House. I'm just saying, we went right there in the front row. Could you see how good our questions are? So I have Dion, you're our guest host here. You're our co-host. you get a question too, and then I'll finish it up. We've run so late. I'm sorry, Lucy, but we are not doing conspiracy theory. We do not want to ruin Jamie's career here because look at how she's going here. She's boosted our audience, and we just need to not do it. Okay.
Look out, Jamie. He's going to offer you your own show now.
Yeah, that's right. We got
So,
Tiffany,
right before Cassie.
I love you, Tiffany. I love you. It's all right. Okay. Yeah. So Dion, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested in the conspiracy theory thing because my producer and I are talking about doing Thought Thread Thursday, which is essentially conspiracy theory Thursday. So we'll talk after the show. So do you foresee an issue? Well, I would like to say, since we're way past time, I just want to tell everyone, if you aren't planning on voting in the primary, please change your mind. Whatever party, Republican or Democrat, Libertarian, whatever, they do theirs differently. But absolutely, the primary is probably the most important election in Indiana. It, in many cases, decides who the candidate is.
Right.
Indiana has a supermajority of Republicans, not real Republicans, but that's another story. We have a supermajority here. More than likely, the Republican candidate that emerges is going to win. The primary is super, super, super important. I cannot stress that enough. Please sign up. Make sure you're registered to vote. You can do it online. You can do it at the license branch. Get it done. You have a little bit of time. Early voting starts in like 15 days. Get out there, get registered to vote, and please, please, please get out there and vote. That's really all I wanted to say, because
Dion wants you to vote. That's what I'm taking away from
really,
this.
really do. I cannot stress it enough, the importance of it.
Sign up and vote.
Yes.
Yep. So, okay, I have one more question, but Jamie, I'll tell you a fun fact about me. I got 85. Oh, Brad's back. Okay. I see him there. I thought he fell off his chair. But when I got 8,500 signatures, and then we discovered that I forgot to sign my own petition. Did you sign your own petition to get on the ballot?
I did not.
Oh, well, we got something in common, except you're going to be a winner. I didn't win. Okay. So there we have that. Okay. This is a very important question. So they have this governor's mansion down here. Are those 5 kids and your husband? You got to move into that governor's mansion?
You know what? I'm such a honest and transparent person. I'll tell you that I actually did do the history. I looked at the history of governors living in the governor's house, and we haven't always had a governor that's lived in the governor's house. And so originally I was actually like, gosh, I just want the people to know that I'm all about them. So I thought, well, what if we turned it into a place where people could actually go and they could get coffee and they could sit there and they could work and all that. But then I realized that, that's a very important space. And I wouldn't want to open that up for people that don't have good intention. So after just thinking about it back and forth, yes, my family will be in the governor's house. That's what.
Oh, that'd be cool. You'd be closer to my house. Last time I was there, we were doing the protest in front of there about the masks and whatnot.
Right.
It was fun. That was like 3.5 years ago. That was probably around the start of our show. I mean, when we were doing that. So yeah. So, well, that's cool. And I think that's one way to stay closer to your kids, right? If you got to be down here and doing that. So I love it. You have been a most gracious guest coming on the Mouthwash Show. Mm-hmm. We appreciate it. And we love the fact that you're going to give us a press pass down there and, roll out the red carpet and all that. So we thank you for coming on tonight, and we wish you all the luck. And I think we're going to have you back on the 2nd as well. Great. So it'll be, we'll see what happens, because we always like to do some follow-ups on that. And keep in mind, if they don't play ball with this, we'll get Rainwater, McCormick, Curtis, and you, and we'll have a little bit of good old-fashioned town hall mouthwash special.
That's what I wanted to say. We actually had, during the pandemic, we had the debate in 2020 for the Republican primary virtually, and it actually worked out really, really well. They did a phenomenal job with it. I can point you guys, if you're interested it's something that can happen. And especially on StreamYard, you have full control over the guests. You can easily mute someone or do what you need to do, pull them off if they're going over. Just saying, it's definitely an option.
Well, we certainly want to bring all options to the table, right? On Thursday at 2:30, I'll be doing a press release. I already did the press release, but I'll be talking to the press, letting them know just kind of my feedback as to what's taking place. We've had a few things that have a few groups that have rectified the situation. I was obviously today at the candidate forum there in Fishers, and so they did allow me to be a part of that discussion. And then we know that Fox 59 has said the parent company won't let me in the debate, but they're going to give me interview time just with them personally, or their station, I should say, their local station. And so that's not a remedy for the contract that we were given, but it is part of a solution that they're trying to be a part of, which is goodness, which we appreciate. So go to jamie4ingov.com. Love for you guys to look at our social media. We have answered a lot of questions, spent a lot of time giving you input, and so you can see everything that we think about. We're trying to be transparent, truth, transparency, engagement. That's what we're about. I appreciate all of your time. I appreciate the work that you've done to build up this community, to have these conversations. They're valuable. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. And I always forget to say this to our guests. Stick around after, the end of the show here, because we're going to wind it up and then we'll do a debrief. And Jamie, we appreciate you coming on. I know you've had a whirlwind tour here of stuff. And Dion, thank you for doing the shows tonight. I've loved it. We call them cross-pollination because we want to try to promote each other's shows. Because honestly, if the mainstream media won't cover people, by gosh, we will. So remember, this is the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. So everybody say good night. I will hit the button, and we will see you again next week. We do have Andrew Horning coming on. And the next week we have Jamie back, and then the next week we have Curtis Hill. So we got an all-star lineup coming on here, and you never know, we might have a debate with the four people that aren't included on the media. So everybody stay tuned. Thanks for watching. And we will catch you next week at 9 p.m. Adios, amigos.